So they're selling that property over there too, huh? That supercar wash
Oh, they're doing what? I'm sorry.
on Essington, they're selling the property? Supercar wash?
Yes,
I saw
yeah,
a
there is a
sale
for
sign
sale
over there.
sign, yeah, yeah.
So these other people wanna buy it, tear down the building, I take it, and,
Well, they wanted to, their proposal is to use the existing building. Yeah.
Make Chignoli's happy.
Okay.
well, they haven't had no neighborhood meeting on that either, that I'm aware of. I'll ask.
Okay. But it failed. Got it, okay.
Do we have the people on the phone? Yeah,
Yeah,
we can start?
yep.
Call to order the meeting for Planning Commission for May 20th or 21st, 2020. Start with roll call.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Caparelli,
Here.
Mr. Cox,
Here.
Mr. Crompton,
Here.
Mr. Dillon,
Here.
Ms. Fide,
Here.
Mr. Mystic,
Here.
Mr. Moore.
Here.
Let the record show that Mr. Kella and Mr. Roussanellis are absent. The first item on our agenda, Mr. Chairman, is the approval of the minutes from the April 16th, 2020 Plan Commission.
Can I get a motion for the approval of the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Caparelli,
Aye.
Mr. Cox,
Aye.
Mr. Crompton,
Aye.
Mr. Dillon,
Aye.
Ms. Fide,
Aye.
Mr. Mystic,
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
Thank you. We will move on to citizens to be heard on agenda items. There is a new temporary procedure for public speaking. Details can be found on the joliet.gov, that's joliet.gov, meeting agendas, minutes, and videos webpage. In-person public speaking is temporarily suspended. This section is for anyone wanting to speak regarding items listed on the agenda, except for items listed under public hearing. Anyone speaking on an agenda item is entitled to speak for a maximum of 4 minutes.
Do we have anybody? Kendall?
We don't have anyone for this section. We will
okay.
have, we do have someone coming up online for a case.
All right.
Per case, okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Next is old business, public hearing. And we have A-6-20, A-7-20, P-3-20, and FP-2-20. These are all related to the proposed gas and wash facility at Route 6 and Galver Road. The petitioner on this matter, Leonard McInnery, is requesting that the annexation's zoning reclassification to B3, and that's General Business District, approval of an annexation agreement for 4.15 acres, and the preliminary plat and Unit 1 final plat for Gas and Wash subdivision, again located at the southeast corner of Route 6 and Galver Road, be tabled to the June 18th Plan Commission meeting. The tabling is being requested in order to finalize the subdivision plats in terms within the proposed annexation agreement. Staff is in favor of the tabling request.
Okay, can I get a motion to table this then?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Caparelli,
Aye.
Mr. Cox,
Aye.
Mr. Crompton,
Aye.
Mr. Dillon,
Aye.
Ms. Fide,
Aye.
Mr. Mystic,
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is old business, no public hearing. We have no items I'm sorry, I skipped. Next item on our agenda is Z-2-20, and that's the reclassification of 0.45 acres located at 1127 through 1133 North Broadway from R2 Single Family Residential to B3 General Business Zoning. The applicant in this matter is Michael Warren. He is the property owner, requesting approval of a zoning reclassification. The purpose is to redevelop vacant lots for a future commercial land use. The existing zoning is R2 Single Family Residential. Again, the location is 1127 through 1133 North Broadway Street. Size is 0.45 acres. Existing land use is vacant land. Surrounding land use and zoning: to the north is commercial B3 general business. To the south is residential R3 1 and 2 family residential. To the east is undeveloped, and that's the Broadway Greenway, and that's zoned RB restricted business. And to the west is residential R2 single family residential zoning. Under site history, in October and November of 2004, the Zoning Board of Appeals reviewed a petition for a variation to reduce the required rear yard setback from 25 feet to 13 feet, and a variation on allowable signage to permit construction of a 7-Eleven convenience store, and that would have been a B1 neighborhood business use in an R2 single-family residential zoning district. The Plan Commission simultaneously reviewed petition Z-19-04 for the reclassification of this site from R2 single-family residential to B1 neighborhood business zoning. Both the Zoning Board of Appeals and Plan Commission tabled their respective petitions indefinitely at their November 2004 meetings. Minutes from these meetings were included in the staff report packet for this petition. Under special information, the applicant requests a zoning reclassification of 1129 through 1133 North Broadway from R2 single-family residential to B3 general business in order to pursue a future commercial development at this location, which consists of 3 long-term vacant lots under common ownership. The site is approximately 124 feet deep along Ingalls Avenue, 145 feet deep along the southern property line, and 140 feet wide along Broadway. The B3 zoning would allow certain commercial, wholesale, and light industrial uses that are transportation-oriented rather than the neighborhood-oriented B1 zoning. The B3 zoning request is in character with the zoning classification to the north, as well as transportation access, since B3 zoning districts are generally within close proximity to high-capacity transportation streets. The site is along North Broadway, which is a very busy state highway, as well as Ingalls Avenue, which is a well-traveled minor arterial. Sewer and water services are readily available for future commercial development. At this time, there is no concept, nor has an intended future use been identified. If the council approves the zoning reclassification request, the property owner intends to enter a covenant voluntarily and recording a deed restriction with the recorder of deeds that would prohibit certain B3 district uses on the property. Such prohibited B3 uses may include liquor stores, taverns, auto repair shops, and other auto-related uses. A forthcoming addendum to the staff report will outline the proposed prohibited uses at this location. Due to social distancing requirements, the applicant could not hold a neighborhood meeting about this zoning reclassification request. Instead, the applicant directly reached out to the Cunningham Neighborhood Council to notify them about the zoning reclassification request. The Neighborhood Council decided to request feedback from their membership in the form of a one-question poll. 59 residents responded, and the results are included in the report. The answer choices, number one was yes, okay to change the zoning from R2 to B3. And there were 8.4% of the responses that indicated that they would be okay with that. The second choice was yes, it's okay to change with restrictions, such as no tavern, stores that sell alcohol, or business that would generate too much in and out traffic. The responses were 33.9% in support of that. And finally, no, leave the zoning at R2, single-family residential. And the response rate for that choice was 57.63%. The city's landscape and screening requirements and non-residential design standard requirements would apply to a future development at this site. The Illinois Department of Transportation would need to approve any ingress-egress requests off Broadway Street since it is a state highway. And that concludes the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Do we have the petitioner on the phone?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, Michael Hanson, attorney Joliet, on behalf of the petitioner, Michael Warren. Let me make some comments in addition to the staff report. I think it's Mr. Warren has been involved in the sale of Joliet real estate here for literally the past 40 to 50 years. He's getting up there in age like a lot of us. He's trying to get his property sold and simplify his portfolio. And being in the business, understands that having this property zoned first, rather than trying to find a buyer, is the best way to try and get this thing accomplished. So, in my opinion, as stated by the staff report, we started with the fact that being on Broadway Street and Ingalls Avenue, as the staff report indicates, the highest and best use for this property is commercial, not residential. B3 is the general business category. When we did go out, and what I did is I worked with John Sheridan, the president of the Cunningham Neighborhood Association, and we developed a list of prohibited uses for the property, which I did send over to Mr. Jackson earlier. And as the staff report indicates, those uses include automotive service station and repair shop, firearms dealer, automotive groups, sale of alcoholic beverages in package form. I understand that in this neighborhood, the neighbors have thought they are supposed to be getting a certain use for a property, and then all of a sudden another use pops up. We're trying to work with the neighbors. We feel that by doing this restrictive covenant, we're going to be as responsive as we can be, but still trying to abide by the zoning ordinance and make the property available for a certain specific use. We believe that the uses that are going to be targeted for the sale of this property will include office and condominium use, possibly a restaurant, and also, I would say, some type of obviously very small retail strip shopping center. We're going to have to come back, whoever is the buyer of this property, as indicated in the prior attempted rezoning in 04, to get some variations, number one, and the staff report is correct. We still have to work out the access with IDOT on the property. Staff report is correct. We will have landscape and screening requirements, which will include fencing on the west part of the property. And it's our opinion and our belief that this is the highest and best use for this property, and we would recommend that the Plan Commission recommend approval to the City Council.
Okay, has this gone in front of the Zoning Board of Appeal yet? Did it go today, or?
No, it has not, John, and it will not until there's a buyer, and then the buyer will have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeal to get variations.
Okay, did your client own this back in 2004 then, when it came to the Planning Commission before?
You know, I believe that he did, yes, although the deeds that I did research didn't seem to indicate that, but I do believe he did. And the reason, in all honesty, as told by my client, that the 04 did not follow through was twofold. Number one, there were some issues back then with the 7-Eleven's convenience store following through. And number two, the then economic development director for the city was personally not in favor of that use on this property, and he essentially killed the deal.
Okay, and so where's Mr. Sheridan today? Is he at, do we have him on the phone?
I'm here.
Yes.
Good. How do you feel
Yes,
about
sir.
this, John?
Excuse me?
Mr. Sheridan, how do you feel about all this? They,
Oh, okay.
you guys didn't get to meet
Yes.
together, and I have a problem with that
Uh,
when it comes to the Joliet citizens not being able to meet. That's my issue. In person.
Let me start my speech. Good afternoon, members of the Plan Commission. I'm John Sheridan. I'm here today as the president of the Cunningham Neighborhood Council. I would like to address the zoning changes for the lots located at Broadway and Ingalls. I sent out a survey to our membership, presented three options that you already heard about. 34 people, or 58%, said no, leave it the way it is. And here are some of the comments that were submitted with the survey, which should have been attached to the document you have there. Not a good location for business. What stops another Super Mercado store? My husband and I do not like any of the ideas for use. Leave it as R2. We don't need another business like the auto repair shop on Smith and Broadway. I'll talk about that later. The corner is not a good fit for business. I have lived on Broadway all my life and don't want it. Too many trucks speeding up and down the road. Bad corner for business. Our roads have deteriorated due to trucks and high traffic. We don't need any business that will increase traffic flow in the area. I said no because you did not tell us what type of business is going in there. Talking with my neighbors, we do not trust the city or lawyers. Put your intentions in writing. There's already a business across Ingalls to the north, which was mentioned. I would not want to see high traffic such as a store or service due for the creation of high traffic. Another one, don't want it. Too much traffic noise in the area already. The bottom line is, we do not trust the city to live up what they tell us. The biggest problem is not enough staff to enforce the special use ordinances. Prime example is the 20-plus cars that are sitting on the repair lot at Broadway and Smith Street, just north of the location. I have turned it into the city at least twice, and the owner does what he wants to do. Cars being repaired right on Smith Street. Cars with no stickers. Cars being stored on the lot that don't run. Looks like a junkyard. The special use ordinance agreement was for no more.
We lose them?
I got muted here, so anyway, okay, the special use ordinance agreement was for no more than 10 cars on the lot. We have a similar situation with an auto repair located at Vine and Ruby. They violate special use all the time. Somebody else had mentioned a nightmare at Cord Ruby with the grocery store. Police are trying to do their best to issue tickets to the violators. Safety hazard on the weekends. Not enough parking in the area. Let's not forget about the increase of truck traffic on Broadway. There's semi-trucks running red lights at full steam ahead. They see the yellow and it's pedal to the metal. I have personally witnessed that several times. There has been 20-plus accidents at the intersection since January of 2018 until present. So how is an entrance on Broadway going to help? There's no way they will be able to make a left turn to go north on Broadway with the traffic flow. Big question, was there a traffic study done? Another reason people do not trust the city on exemptions is what they see on the liquor store licenses in our area. Our group had worked with 3 restaurants that have liquor license for dinner only. No entertainment permits that create a bar-like business. So what does the liquor commissioner do? Issue them entertainment permits after a year or so and violate the agreement between the business and the neighborhood. In addition, then another restaurant got to have a pool table inside with people hanging around drinking like a bar. Now you want us to trust the city to enforce another agreement? Trust is earned, and the city has failed miserably. So in summary, the long-standing neighbors of CNC that have lived in that area just about their whole life respectfully ask you to please turn down the request for zoning from R2 to R3. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody, any other citizens?
I believe we have one more.
You could speak, sir.
Someone on the line?
Is someone there? Do you have a person's name?
That person is John Sheridan.
Oh, he
Oh,
just
so
spoke.
He just talked.
He
Okay.
spoke.
Matt
So-
Hansen, sorry.
Oh, Mike.
Mike Hanson spoke already.
Gentleman that just came in.
Mike Warren.
No,
No, Mike Warren is my client. He's not on the phone.
the young man.
Okay,
That's it for that.
Then that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
He's not.
all right. Are there any other questions or comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I feel uncomfortable improving this at this time, based on the fact that there wasn't being able to public meeting. They didn't get the majority out here, even with this straw poll here. I don't think that there's a big rush here. It was from 2004 to now. I understand that he might want to divest his portfolio, but that shouldn't be on the burden of the citizens of that community. I think that I just don't see the big rush right now. If you have something that you want to say, that there's a particular business there with specificity, absolutely bring it here, but to have it such a broad way going. And I understand that you're weighing whether or not you have the chicken or the egg, you have the zoning and that brings the business or whatever. But if you got a good business, I'm more than willing to hear that, but to have an open-ended, even with the covenants, I don't believe are enough right now. So I think it would be wrong to approve that at this time.
Okay, did any other commissioner have a comment or questions? Kendall, that,
Question that basically, if somebody else, he's doing this so that he can sell the property.
yes,
The thing is,
some understanding.
whoever buys it is gonna have to bring whatever kind of business they want in front of front of
True.
us to get it
True.
okayed.
True.
So we've got a strong,
Not
choice
necessarily,
here to
but not
decide
necessarily.
what kind of business does go in there.
Well, not really, because once it's zoned for that particular business, you can't just tell somebody that, hey, now it's zoned commercial. You can't say, well, you can't bring it because we don't like your particular business. You can't do that.
Or they're
Yeah,
already
so-
putting down some kind of businesses that can't go in there.
I think,
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it's it's a lot easier to say, hey, look, I want to bring in a, whatever it is, a church for or whatever, and say, okay, bring that to us and we can approve it. Don't just say, well, we'll approve it and hope that you stay within the covenant and it's something that the residents desire. It's quite evident here that the residents do not approve that. They want a restricted covenant. The restricted covenant, I don't see, yeah, and I don't see what the big rush is right now. I mean, can't we wait till the end of summer and have a meeting with all the residents? I mean, why does it have to be right this minute? It's waited since
He
2004.
stated maybe the age of the person to be able to get rid of it, he's been sitting on it.
Yeah,
for
but
how long?
that doesn't, why should we burden the citizens of the city of Joliet because a developer wants to get rid of a piece of property because he's older?
Commissioner Moore,
So-
to answer your question, the B3 zoning would provide them with the ability to have certain uses there by right of zoning. There are also proposing covenants that would restrict certain uses there, but the B3 zoning would give them the right to do certain things without having to come back before the city. Now, there are other types of uses that would require a special use permit, and then they would have to come back through the process, but then there are certain things that they would not have to come back through the process for.
What percentage of the businesses going down Broadway between Theodore and Ruby are B3?
I don't have that zoning map in front of me, so I can't answer that question with any sort of
But I
specificity,
think there
but
are quite a few.
when
Yeah.
were they put in, though? That's another question. Most of them that I know have been there for 40 years or more.
Yeah, but there are places that are germane to the neighborhood that have been living with all this time.
Yeah, and they were there for years and years and years, and they have been like that. One, I do agree with you, Jim, that the citizens should have the right to meet on this, and I don't think anything this is not like we have to do something right away as far as a vote, because it is residential right now. They could build a house on it, correct, Kendall? They could build a 2-unit, which is residential, on it right now, if the guy wanted to invest his money and do something and sell that.
So the current zoning is R2, which would allow single-family homes.
All right, so so if he wanted to build a 2-unit on it, what would that require then?
He would have to come back before the city to rezone the property to R3, and that would
R3,
allow
okay.
2-unit, construction.
All right.
Again, I don't see what the big rush is here. It's been 2004, it's been, what, 14 years? Or 16 years?
Could I
whatever
ask
it
a
is.
question, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, it's Mike Yancy. I presume that's Mr. Caparelli who's speaking, because nobody identified themselves.
Yeah, it's Jim Caparelli, absolutely.
Okay, fine, okay. You know, well, first let me make a broad comment, then make 2 specific comments. With respect to Mr. Sheridan's speech, the only comment I'd like to make is, again, Mr. Sheridan and residents have problems with the city of Joliet with special use permits and the enforcement of those. We won't have a special use permit. We'll have zoning. I think he's kind of mixing apples and cucumbers with that comment. But I will make 2 other comments. If Mr. Caparelli, Mr. Dillon are recommending that we have a meeting with the citizens, I'm happy to table this matter and have an actual face-to-face meeting with the citizens. Yes, there's no absolute rush to this, and that meeting may not be for a couple of months. I recognize that. And if the results of that meeting really turn out, and I would make this observation, much worse than the survey, then we would probably pull the application. Now, however, I would still expect that after that meeting to continue with this application and come back to the Plan Commission, because I don't feel that it's right for the Plan Commission to say we can't rezone this property unless you come to us with a specific use and an actual contract.
Well,
So,
I would tend to,
separate-
at that point, Mr. Hanson, I tend to disagree with you. I believe it isn't within our purview to say unless we have something here. I don't think that that's 100% wrong for us to say that, and so I strongly disagree with you on that premise, is that I believe that it is within our purview to say, hey, bring us something so we could look at it hard and take a look at that and make sure that the citizens there are, because we serve the citizens here. And so that's what we're trying to do. And so I disagree with that statement.
I would say that's the most important thing, to see what the people
And
in that
see what
area
the
that live in
community
that
has to
area,
say.
what they
I'm not
really
saying-
want.
I'm not
And if
saying
they really
no.
object to it,
Right.
then we're going against the citizens of Joliet. We're not here for somebody
Right.
else.
If
but for
it's something that the
of
citizens
Joliet.
want, I don't think that there's any problem or any issue with that. But I think that they're entitled to have a meeting, and I don't see a big rush. And I think it's pretty straight. Yeah,
Well,
I motion to
okay, can I
table.
get a motion on the floor to table this until they can have a meeting with the neighborhood, so the people can come out? And actually, I'd like to be able to give, they're going to come here to this meeting, and not 10 people or 5 people, because I really don't like this phone stuff to begin with.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
I want to see people's faces, and they'll come out. Joliet people come out and they'll speak their piece.
All right.
They'll say what they want.
All right, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to table this until such time that a public meeting can be convened for these folks.
Can we have a specific date, though? Why don't we recommend the meeting in 2 months?
Well, that's if we can have it, if you can have it in 2 months.
Well, no, with the understanding
Yeah,
that
I
we have
agree.
to have a meeting, I understand that.
We'll at least give you a date certain, and then if we have to change it, we'll change it. Is that reasonable? I
Exactly
believe
right.
it is.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right.
Second.
We have roll call then?
Mr. Caparelli,
Aye.
Mr. Cox,
Aye.
Mr. Crompton,
Aye.
Mr. Dillon,
Aye.
Ms. Fide,
Aye.
Mr. Mystic,
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
So this will be tabled for 2 months?
So they can have a real public meeting with that neighborhood association.
Right.
And maybe the neighborhood association will be able to come here, so we can have a real meeting and not over the phone and stuff.
Yeah, well, that's a little bit out of our control right now.
I know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah, but that's what we're
There's
shooting
not
for.
life and death here.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Hanson, 2 months, so that would put us into roughly July.
That's fine. I
Okay.
understand, and I appreciate the decision of the commission.
Thank you, Mr. Hanson.
Okay, not a problem.
And thank you,
We'll
Mr.
have our
Sheridan.
meeting and see what they say.
And thank you, Mr. Sheridan.
But can I be notified
Okay.
when this meeting happens? I'd just like to just sit in and listen.
Mr. Hanson?
Absolutely, we'll let you know. Yeah,
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
thank you, everybody. Thanks. Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda would be old business, no public hearing. We actually have no items there. New business public hearing, the first item is P-8-20, and that is the Audubon Parkway West First Re-subdivision, and that's a minor subdivision. The applicant in this matter is Audubon Realty LLC. They are the owners. They are requesting approval of a preliminary plat of subdivision to allow the construction of a team condominium building. The zoning is I-1 and that's light industrial. Location is northwest corner of Audubon Parkway West. Size is 1.12 acres. This is a private racing facility that is currently in existence. Surrounding land use and zoning: to the north, private recreational, and that is I-1 zoning. To the south, the same. To the east, the same. To the west, industrial with our IT, and that's the intermodal zoning. Under site history, the property was annexed and zoned I-1 light industry, along with an annexation agreement in 2001. In 2003, an amendment to the annexation agreement was approved with a master development plan and special use for the open-air recreational facility to outdoor driving, racing, and testing of motor vehicles. In 2006, a revised master development plan was approved to allow additional team lots and team lot structures in the southwestern area of the parcel. In 2007, an amendment to the annexation agreement and master development plan and a special use to allow a country club building with condominiums for owners was approved but never built. In 2013, an amendment to the annexation agreement, master development plan, and special use permit to allow expansion of the open-air recreational use facility was approved. In May 2015, an amendment to the annexation agreement and master development plan was approved to allow team condominium buildings, and the subdivision for Unit 1 was approved in August 2015. In November 2018, an annexation agreement, amendment, and master development plan amendment was approved to allow the addition of a go-kart track on the premises. Under special information, the petitioner is requesting approval of a 2-lot minor subdivision in order to create a
Yeah,
lot.
it worked. Good. All right, there you go. Okay.
If you're on the phone, please mute. Thank you. I lost my place, Mr. Chairman.
Special information, petition requests a 2-lot minor subdivision in order to
Okay.
create a lot
Lot 1 will.
condominium building.
Got it. Okay, Lot 1 will still include 3 detached garages, a proposed ingress-egress easement, and some additional parking spaces are also included on Lot 1 for access and the use of both condominium buildings and garages. As part of the amended annexation and master development plan agreements in 2015, members would be allowed to own a part of a condominium building in order to provide a more affordable option at the club. Each unit could accommodate 5 to 6 cars within a 25-foot by 50-foot garage area, and will also have a 25-foot and 25 by 25-foot upper lounge area with a deck overlooking the south circuit of the track. Outside material and features will replicate the existing team units. All public improvements will be completed as per the requirements of the approved annexation agreement. master development plan, special use permit, subdivision regulations, and the requirements of the public works and utilities and departments. And that concludes the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, do we have the petitioner on the phone?
Yes, we do.
It's Mike Hanson.
Mike?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson, go ahead.
Mike Hanson here, yeah, on behalf of the petitioner.
I don't see any problem with this.
I don't-
Can I make a motion to,
Well, any other comments from the commissioners? Any commissioner have a comment, or do we have anybody on the phone talking against it to begin with?
I don't believe we have anyone on the line.
And this is pretty much standard with what's down there, correct? There's no difference, we're not
Right.
changing anything.
That is correct. Mr. Hanson, did you want to add anything to the staff report?
Nope, I think the staff report fits the project very well.
Right.
Can I get a motion then?
I would motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Caparelli?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. Crompton?
Aye.
Mr. Dillon?
Aye.
Ms. Fide?
Aye.
Mr. Mystic?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Okay, motion to approve was, motion to approve was supported.
Next.
Okay. Next item is V-1-20, and that is the vacation of an access easement. The applicant in this matter is Bujar Bob Shabani. He is requesting vacation of an access easement for the purpose of a parking lot extension for a future used car dealership. Location is 1900 Essington Road, 3,792 square feet, and that's the size of the easement. The property size is almost 40,000 square feet. Surrounding land use and zoning: to the north is B3, multi-tenant commercial. To the south is B3, used car dealership. To the east is B3, daycare. To the west is R2, single-family residential subdivision. The property in question has been a car wash since its construction, and the use predates the city's requirement for a special use permit for a car wash. The original purpose of the access easement was to provide for interior circulation between this property and the adjacent properties to the north. This access easement runs northward up to 1948 Essington Road, which is reflected on the recording plat of the West Weagle subdivision that was recorded in 1983. The easement is also reflected on a trustee's deed that was recorded in 1981. Under special information, the area in question is a 24-foot deep access easement that runs the full width, that's 158 feet, of the property. The petitioner is the contract purchaser for the property and desires to vacate this easement in order to extend the existing asphalt parking lots into this area. The petitioner is seeking a special use permit to establish a used car dealership at this location, and this request was approved earlier this afternoon by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Mr. Commissioner and members of the commission, I should note that that item was motion for approval, and there was a vote by the Zoning Board to deny that request. The 20-foot public utilities and drainage easement, which runs along the entire western edge of the property, is not subject to this vacation request. The property owner will maintain the 20-foot public utilities and drainage easement as a landscape buffer. A site plan and landscape plan were included in the staff report. Public Works Department is not opposed to the request and believes that removal of the access easement will have little to no impact on future interior circulation between the adjacent properties because the access easement in question had never been paved to establish such a connection. Therefore, there is no history of use. Public Utilities Department is not opposed to the vacation request. There are no utilities in the access easement. Nicor and AT&T have reported that they are not opposed to the request. As of the writing of this staff report, no other utility companies have reported back as to whether or not they may require that an easement be reserved if this item is recommended for approval. And that concludes the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Kendall. Question for you, Kendall. You're talking about the property in front of it that goes all the way up to Essington Road, right?
Correct.
And also to the north of it, on the north side where there's that's also, and they're talking about putting the asphalt down.
Yeah, so the grassy area that's depicted on the picture here, that is part of the existing access easement. And the proposal is to vacate that so that that pavement could be extended to allow for what was, being proposed for the parking display of used cars.
Do we have a public meeting on this too, or did they not have one?
No, there was no neighborhood meeting on this.
Okay, just a question. We have the petition on the phone?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you'd like to add, sir?
This is Bob Gable from United Architects, working with Mr. Shabani, and I just wanted to add that we sent out all the certified letters to all the properties north of this property. There were 11 property owners, and the only one that called was the Henry Ailes, and he originally said that he objected, but then I talked to Mr. Shabani yesterday, and he said something different to Mr. Shabani about that it might be a good idea to keep that, or get rid of it, I guess he said. Anyway, I get all that information if you need that with the certified letters, but the main reason that, again, that they need to vacate this easement is to be able to park the cars up closer to the road there, because we needed to add access aisles throughout the lot so cars could get around the vehicles that are displayed, and the customers could get in and out for parking and that type of thing.
Okay, thank you. The Zoning Board of Appeals, what was their comments on this, Kendall? If I didn't get to see that.
Yes, so the Zoning Board of Appeals, the main comment was that they didn't feel that this was an appropriate location for the proposed use,
Another car dealership?
for another car
Quite a
dealership.
few, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Are there comments or questions from the commissioners?
Are they going to keep the car wash?
No.
They're gonna-
Okay, that's,
I think the
Yeah.
property is currently for sale, yes.
Sir, are you gonna tear down the building and rebuild the building?
No, the plan was to keep the building basically as it is, and if you look at the drawings there, they were basically going to get rid of all the equipment and all the drainage and all that stuff in the car wash bays, and then basically put an overhead door in the front of the bays, and then those would become kind of like special display spaces or display bays for individual cars. And then there's a little office there. They were going to open up part of the block wall and add a little bit of storefront and glass and make a little office so that somebody could be in the office but see out to see people. So it's not going to be a car wash anymore, and they're not going to even do any repairs or anything there. It's just going to be used car sales.
thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, Jason Gasser, I have a questions.
Good, Jason?
One is just on the east side of the property in the rear, there's existing gravel there. I'm not sure if that had to do with the car lot or not, or the car wash, excuse me, but are they going to keep the gravel there? I'm just trying to understand what the purpose is, because it doesn't show it changed on the plan. That's my first question. And my second question is, I know it looks like you're putting curb up on the west side by, want to expand the parking lot. I know there's one drain that services that whole property. Is that going to be enough? And maybe that's a question for Scott on the line. I was afraid of maybe some possibly flooding issues if they think it'll handle it, that's fine too.
Do we have any information from the staff about that, Kendall?
Scott Gapsovich, have you had a chance to review this?
No, we have not looked at it for actual site design. We just looked at it in terms of whether or not the vacation was appropriate. So obviously, as they come in with a new site design, they're going to be expanding the parking lot, things like that. They'll have to provide the appropriate stormwater detention and drainage for the site.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that's not part of so any detention, Scott, they would still have to come back and talk to the city about that?
Yeah, I don't have that site in front of me right now, so I don't exactly recall that. I'd have to see that again and look the site over again.
Okay, and then
There's some existing detention there now.
I think there is, but it looks like they're taking it away by putting a parking lot in a little bit. That was a concern too. I know it's acres, so it probably doesn't qualify for,
Yeah, we'll evaluate all that at the time of a site submittal. Make sure they're in compliance with everything.
John Dillon here. I think all that stuff should be giving us ahead of time so we have a good idea of what's going on before we even pass something and agree to something. There's another case I would like to have a neighborhood meeting to see what all the neighborhood people think about this. We already have car dealerships on there. I'd like to see if we can get a motion from one of the commissioners about tabling this also.
I'll make a motion to table it to for 2 months, to the same time we had the
So
other.
we can have a neighborhood meeting, and
Sure.
also they should be able to get the site plans for the drainage so we can have enough to be able to drain, because I know it does flood over there at times.
All right, I make a motion to table. 2 months.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Get a roll call table in yet?
Mr. Caparelli?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. Crompton?
Aye.
Mr. Dillon?
Aye.
Ms. Fide?
Aye.
Mr. Mystic?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
This item will be tabled for 2 months
Yeah.
to July, pending a neighborhood meeting.
Neighborhood meeting, and then also
And
the staff should be able to get an
additional
idea
site
about how
information.
much we need for drainage
Okay.
to make sure that it can be put in there and we can handle it. Because you're taking away a lot of green space.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, let's see, I think that completes our cases. Next item would be new business, no public hearing. We have no items. We have no items for study session. We have no items for old or new business, not for final action or recommendation. The next section is public comments. There is new temporary procedures for public speaking. Details can be found on the joliet.gov, and that's joliet.gov, meeting agendas, minutes, and videos webpage. In-person public speaking is temporarily suspended. This section is for anyone wanting to speak regarding non-agenda items and are allowed a maximum of 4 minutes.
Do we have anybody on the line for that?
We have no one else on the line, Mr. Chairman.
Let me ask you this, I got a question then. Some of this stuff coming to the council, some of this stuff should go to the citizens and they should be able to voice their opinion in Joliet. And I realize we can't do it right now, so is there a reason why we have to bring this stuff up to the planning commission right now? Or can we hold some of the stuff that, unless it's, like the Audubon's always been like that, so we know that.
Yeah, I know, but I think that people have, I also, while I agree that the people have a right to a hearing, I think that if people think that it wouldn't require that, or they've met that obligation and they want to bring it here, I don't think we should burden Kendall
Yeah.
with that ability to
I was
determine
just
whether or
asking.
not. So I wouldn't advise that. If people want to bring it here, well, let's hear them out. If we decide, because we can table it, and it's not a big deal. It doesn't put the pressure on.
Yeah, I
Canada.
agree.
Okay. Well, then I guess we get a motion for adjournment.
I motion to adjourn.
All those in favor, say aye.
You got a second.
He's got a second.
Oh,
Aye.
he's already leaving.
He's already leaving.
Aye.
He's sucking it away, he's walking away.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Total Info Dailies.